Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwarz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome into episode 6 of our House Huddle Shorts. We're here to discuss what happened yesterday, right? Justin and I already talked about the Robert Quinn trade. Justin and I already talked about the Roquan Smith trade. If you missed those episodes, go back, check them out. The Robert Quinn trade was a part of episode 19 of the full podcasts. And then episode 20 had the Roquan Smith and the Dallas Cowboys breakdown. But yesterday, Ryan Poles, before the deadline, and the Bears were active. 3 trades. 3 trades before the 2022 NFL deadline. Ryan Poles was making moves. Whether you agree with them or not, I do. I think the process is making the right choice here. Kind of shifting from defense to offense a little bit. But Chase Claypool was added to the team. And I got to say, I absolutely love it. I talked about Claypool being a potential option prior to the deadline really, getting close. This was back in September. I wrote an article about it at Bear Goggles On. And yeah, I mean, he brings something to the table that they don't have. I mean, N'Keal Harry and him are a little bit similar, I guess, as far as big bodies go, but he's a guy who can, make a run downfield and you see him making a catch deep that you're not going to see, drops like we saw from Velus Jones last week. I mean, he does drop the ball, don't get me wrong. But he's like one of the better contested catch receivers in the league. His separation stats are decent too. He's not at the bottom of the barrel like Allen Robinson was when he was here in Chicago, and he still is as he's in LA. This is a good move. All right, so I'm going to preface this with this is a good move. Now, some people are concerned that they gave up way too much for Claypool with giving up a second-round pick. I would have preferred it to be a third. Obviously, I think everyone would have. And then finding out that it wasn't the Baltimore second-rounder that the Bears just received from the Ravens for Roquan Smith in that deal. It's actually going to be the Chicago Bears second-round pick, which is more than likely going to be the higher of the two, right? Closest to the first round. But the thing is that as more news came out, they weren't the only ones involved. Okay, so that right there is number one. Number one reason why they did not overpay by sending a second-round pick for Chase Claypool is that the Chicago Bears were not the only team involved. The Green Bay Packers were heavily involved. And if I were the Ravens and I was looking at where the Bears were, team that's selling off 2 of their defensive captains, team that's selling off, Roquan Smith, who's arguably a top 5 linebacker in the league, right? Versus the Green Bay Packers, who have, 2-time former MVP over the last, 2 years, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Yeah, I'm gonna choose the Chicago Bears as the team I'm gonna send it to because I'm gonna assume that the Packers are gonna end up with a better record than the Bears, even though they're still currently 3-5, both of them at the same record. I'm going to assume that the Bears would be the better option here, right? So I get why they had to go with Chicago. I also think that they assume the Baltimore Ravens are going to be better than both of them. Okay? So the Steelers made a smart business decision here, and Ryan Poles had to meet what the market set if he wanted Claypool to be here. Now, I heard all over social media, well, they should get DJ Moore. Well, they should have went for T. Higgins. They should have went for Jerry Jeudy. Guess what, guys? None of them were traded. None of them were available. And if you were going to go for one of those guys and you were going to convince the other teams to trade them, you're giving up way more than just 1 second-round pick. Okay? So again, they did not overpay for Chase Claypool. All right? Now, here's a couple other reasons why they didn't overpay for Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is still only 24 years old. Okay? He's in the third year of his career. He's only 24 years old. He is a full year and almost 2 months younger than third round rookie, Velus Jones Jr. I know the joke keeps going. It does. But yeah, it's not like you can't grow with this kid. Okay, 24 years old, will not be 25 until the summer of 2023. You get him in here now. And this brings me to another reason why they didn't overpay. You know, some people are saying, oh, they should have went and got Calvin Ridley. The Jaguars only gave up a fifth. Well, Calvin Ridley's not available until 2023. Okay, he's currently suspended. Justin Fields needs a body now. He needs a weapon now. He is showing progress over the last 3-4 weeks. And he's starting to look like a true franchise quarterback that could be here for decades. Okay, or at least a decade. Something that the Chicago Bears haven't had in a very long time. Jay Cutler was probably the closest to that, and they had to trade 2 first-round picks for him. They didn't draft him. And Jay Cutler never became elite. Justin Fields' ceiling is elite. But even elite quarterbacks need weapons. Okay? Look at what we're seeing right now. I'm not going to say that Tua Tagovailoa is elite. Not yet. But he's sure starting to look like it with the help of Tyreek Hill on that team. Okay, Tyreek Hill, number 1 in the league for receiving yards. Justin talked about this in our other episode. Number 4, Jalen Waddle. Justin talked about this in our other episode. Like, these guys are clearly helping the quarterback. Okay? Now, I understand Justin Fields needs some offensive line help too. I'm sure Ryan Poles knows that as well. And the chances of getting that help through the trade deadline, just not feasible. Okay? Now, another reason why they didn't overpay. And Ryan Poles brought this up in his press conference, but I actually wrote about this prior to his press conference. The 2023 free agent market for wide receivers is not good. Okay, it's not good. I'm going to list off some names real quick. Okay, I wrote about this at Bear Goggles On. These are the names that you're going to see in 2023 available. I understand they have $100+ million to work with. You got Nelson Aguilar, Sterling Shepard, DJ Chark, Randall Cobb, Marvin Jones, Julio Jones, Byron Pringle, welcome back, Alan Lazard, Jacoby Myers, Juju Smith-Schuster, a guy I'm pretty high on, Jarvis Landry. Out of all of those guys there, I don't know that I'm going to take a slam dunk one of them over Chase Claypool. Now you add in the fact they had to give a second-round pick for him. Okay. But you're also getting Claypool for a little bit more than half a season. That gives Justin Fields time to develop with him. Like I say, he's 24 years old. Still has a year left under contract next year. The franchise tag after that if they can't get a deal worked out. But you got Justin Fields building chemistry. You got Darnell Mooney building chemistry, being able to work off of him, right? Now you got 2 guys to worry about. This was a good move. It was a good move, and the price was fine. Okay, the price was fine because you weren't going to find a guy next year in free agency that was going to help this team. Not in this way. Not at that age. Okay? Now, let's look at the 2023 draft class. I am big on Jordan Addison right now, and I've admitted this many times. I have not gotten deep into my draft prep. Okay, I don't do that till towards the very end of the season. I've been doing it a little bit earlier as I've been covering the Bears, but I don't really get too deep into it until probably late December, beginning of January. Okay. Jordan Addison right now is my guy. Okay, he's the guy that I would love to see. But there's 4 guys that I would consider first round picks at the wide receiver position. Okay, some people are like, you're going to now spend another draft pick? Well, maybe not necessarily. But if you were to go, move back, maybe you start winning a few games now that you have another weapon on offense. If you are going to take a wide receiver in the first round, there's 4 guys I would consider. Okay, 4. Now that you took Claypool in the second round, though, with one of your second round picks, now that leaves you the opportunity to maybe just focus on defensive line or offensive line. Because those are the 2 positions right now that probably need the most help. Okay, Justin Jones has been admirable. He's had some really solid games, solid performances. I have no problem with him. Okay? You got 2 young guys on the edge that struggle to contain sometimes. And some of you might be thinking, well, they shouldn't have traded away Robert Quinn. Guess what? Robert Quinn was struggling with containment this year too. Okay? He has been struggling with containment just as much as the young guys. But if you can find a guy that you can put on the defensive line, right? Carter out of Georgia might be that guy. Okay, he's probably probably one of the top players in the league or in the prospects coming into the draft. Okay, so I'd be okay if they went defensive line if they had a pick that high up and it was for Carter. Okay, but maybe you take the left tackle out of Northwestern, and I'm blanking on his name right now. I should have had it written down. Pretty sure he's a Polish kid. I think it's like Spolansky, something like that. He's probably going to be the best option at left tackle. Okay, there's a couple others though. There's a couple other guys. So if you go left tackle in the first round, that makes complete sense to me. But then you're saying, okay, Rob, but then why don't you just draft a second round wide receiver? Okay, I understand that argument, but guess what? I'd probably take Chase Claypool over everyone that's going to be available in the second round this year. And if we even look at last year, and this year's wide receiver class to me is very similar from a quantity standpoint, a little bit less. I think there's a little bit less of a top end quality here. Depth might even be a little bit weaker. Is that you look at even this draft, the guys who went in the second round. George Pickens, I mean, obviously the Steelers like him, right? Got him 52, 53, somewhere around there. And they moved Claypool because they know what they have in Pickens. Pickens looks elite. Looks like he could be elite. Okay, he's not elite there, not yet, but he looks like he could be. And that's a guy I was all over. When the second round hit, I was like, you got to go for Pickens. You got to go for Pickens. I know they're going to take Kyler Gordon. Remember, I called the Kyler Gordon pick the night before it happened. Thought maybe they'd take him, if he fell instead of Jaquan Brisker. Honestly, I'd rather have Brisker than Gordon at this point. I'm still on the fence of would I want Pickens over Kyler Gordon. But now you throw Chase Claypool into the ring, right? Now he's in the picture. Now you got Chase Claypool, Kyler Gordon, and Jaquan Brisker, and I love that combination. So give me that any day over just having Brisker and Pickens, okay? Because Pickens comes with some really crazy, I don't want to call him a mental disruption, but there's clearly some off-the-field stuff that could develop. Maybe it never does. And honestly, a lot of times, wide receivers, the bigger divas they are, the better they usually are. So, I'm just hoping it's not like an Antonio Brown type situation. All right, so again, let's recap real quick why they didn't overpay. You got a 24-year-old wide receiver who is going to be under control for another year. that gets half a season to develop with your quarterback this year and gives Justin Fields another weapon as he continues to grow and develop. And let's be honest, Justin Fields continuing to grow and develop is way more important right now than wins and losses. Okay? And I want wins because I need 7 for my bet that I put on the beginning of the year. I got 2 of them, actually. Reason? Well, that's kind of reason 1 and 2, okay? Because you get him a young guy who can continue to develop, and you get him for half a season now versus having to wait, right? Third reason, he's better or just as good. In my opinion, he's better. He's better than any option that they would have had in free agency out of maybe Juju Smith-Schuster. But again, Smith-Schuster hasn't been doing fantastic in Kansas City. And on top of that, he's a lot older. Okay? I'm pretty sure off the top of my head he's 28. Okay? Then, on top of that, you look at the upcoming 2023 draft class, and you're essentially taking a second-round wide receiver now. Okay? I know he comes a little bit older, but don't forget, he's still younger than Velus Jones, who they just drafted. And some of these draft classes are going to be a little bit older as we continue to go. Last year was probably going to be the worst case scenario, but with the COVID year, that kind of pushed things back a little bit. Some of these guys, had to wait another extra year. So again, I sit here and I tell you, the Chicago Bears did not overpay for Chase Claypool. And the biggest reason was the first one that I mentioned. The biggest reason is that Chicago Bears weren't the only ones involved. Right? This wasn't a Ryan Pace, I'm going to outbid everyone, but really only outbid myself on Mike Glennon situation. That's not what this was. That's not even close to what this was. There were other teams involved. This isn't a Ryan Pace, I'm going to trade up one spot to get my guy, Mitch Trubisky. When in reality, I could have stayed at pick number 3 and had my choice of whoever San Francisco didn't take, or any team that traded up with San Francisco didn't take, right? That means I would have had my Mitch Trubisky, or I would have ended up with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't know if his career would have been as good here in Chicago, but you're not trading picks away to move up one spot just to get your guy. And I gave him credit for knowing who he wanted and making a move to get that done. But I was also the same person, and I'm off the field, massage parlor, personal massage nonsense aside. I was definitely on the side of you stay at 3, right? You stay at 3, and you. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. And you take Deshaun Watson, okay? You stay at 3 and you take Deshaun Watson. I was completely spacing on Watson's name because he hasn't been in the league for basically 2 years. All right, so Deshaun Watson was my guy coming out of that draft, and I would have loved to see the Chicago Bears stay there and get him. That said, now hindsight 2020, Ryan Pace dodged the bullet, right? I mean, I know he got cleared, but he basically missed a full season last year. Missing basically a half a season this year, a little bit more. There's so many uncertainties when it comes to prospects. You know what you're getting in Chase Claypool. Okay? He might not be your top wide receiver 1. To be honest, what I would love to see, because the free agency market is a little bit better for offensive line, what I would love to see is if the Chicago Bears pass at left tackle in the first round and really hit hard on one of these top 4 wide receivers, and that becomes your wide receiver 1 for 2023, you have him as wide receiver 1. You have Claypool as wide receiver 2, right? You have Mooney as wide receiver 3. Your wide receiver group went from being a laughingstock to being probably one of the better prospective, okay, because we don't know for sure, especially with draft picks, the potential there is just would be fantastic. Okay. Now, again, you still got to find guys who can block. You got to attack the trenches. You got to build through the trenches. Ryan Poles started doing it last year. We've already seen it with our with their 5th round pick, Braxton Jones, playing left tackle. He hasn't been great. He's had his ups and downs, but give the guy some time. Maybe he needs to move to right tackle. Maybe he needs to move inside. You still got Tevin Jenkins, and I know that's a drama situation. He looks to be your best at this moment, right? Larry Borum, another guy, 5th round pick, but still, it's only 2nd year. There are guys that they drafted late in the rounds, right? In the later rounds to try to get, Doug Kramer and Jatier Carter, and there's guys that they brought in. They're trying to build through the draft. Now they do need one of those top guys. This gives Ryan Poles more flexibility in order to do that. He doesn't have to reach. He doesn't have to think, oh, you know what? We really need to go wide receiver here. No, we saw him stick to his draft board in 2022. I guarantee he's going to stick to his draft board in 2023. It'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out. I'm very excited, and you guys should all be too. That's where we're going to let it go. I'm a little bit over my time. I appreciate you guys checking in. I am working on my Justin Fields content, and hopefully we'll have a Fields-focused short coming out later this week. I'm not sure exactly when. It'll either be Thursday or Friday. Hopefully I can get it done. I'm also trying to go back and watch the New England game so I can also kind of do a 2-for-1 here. I want to get a comparison. I started charting things and getting a little bit more in-depth on my grading of him. So, yeah. That's it. Bear down.